Hi there, this is Scott Weber, and I'd like to talk to you about making good audio for your streaming content. First of all, we can do a lot to improve the sound by just knowing the settings on our computer. So if you're running on a Mac and you're using your internal mic, one thing you may consider for better quality audio is make sure the volume's right. So when you adjust the volume, you want it to see the levels bounce somewhere between the midway point and about 3/4 all the way up. You don't want to slam that audio because you'll end up with distorted audio. The other thing that people don't realize is this built-in function called use ambient noise reduction. And that works good for speech, but when that's applied to music or other things, it can really dampen the sound and you can get unpleasant results, especially if you're going to use your content for video editing later where you're going to remix the sound. Make sure that use ambient noise reduction is checked off. In your QuickTime settings, if you're making a QuickTime video, a couple things to consider. First of all, be sure that you pick your source. You can either pick an internal microphone like we talked about before, and if your setting is like it is, you'll get the best quality for that. I would strongly suggest using an external microphone and you'll get better results as well, which we'll talk further about in this tutorial. Also, don't be afraid to use the maximum quality in your recording. Disk space is free, it's not costing you any more money, and it's going to make things look and sound better. So let's talk about the audio settings for Zoom. In your settings folder in Zoom, select audio, and then select the microphone you're using, which in this case I'm using an external microphone. And then the critical part is in the advanced setting. There's some settings here that will help you to make your audio quality much better. Now what they've done is they have a couple of settings here which are good for helping when you have a large meeting with lots of people because it helps to reduce the amount of background noise. But if you want higher quality audio, especially if you're streaming music, you want to make sure that these two settings, suppress persistent background noise and suppress intermittent background noise, are both disabled. The other thing I'd strongly suggest is to use an external microphone. And there's a variety of different types of USB microphones that you can use on your laptop. Here's a few that are pictured here. And if you're doing strictly spoken voice, using some kind of a lav mic or a headset mic, or something that you can get close to the mic, or if you're doing musical content, using a large diaphragm mic like the one I'm using here, which is the Audio Technica, or a Blue Yeti mic. Those are all really good mics to use that will improve the sound for your streaming content. The other thing which you may not realize, just because you're streaming audio doesn't mean you can't use professional equipment. All it takes is a USB interface to use pro quality microphones. You can use a handheld mic like a Shure SM58. You can even hook in your wireless system using a wireless transmitter plugged in through a USB interface. And that way you can have the same quality of sound as you're used to in your church or your school or wherever you may be having to now remotely create content. The other possibility is to improve the sound from your iOS device, either your iPad or your iPhone. And it's as simple as having either a USB interface that you can plug in a professional microphone, or there's microphones that are created just for iOS devices. And that will also go a long ways toward improving your sound. Another important thing is to pick a good location. You know, your kitchen may be a beautiful spot with the light streaming in from the windows and stuff, but probably not a great place to do a recording for your podcast or your streaming event. You may have a beautiful living room with a vaulted ceiling, and as nice as it looks, it's probably not going to be very good for your sound. Try to find a quiet, isolated room. Maybe it's your home office, somewhere that's carpeted, somewhere that's quiet, some place that doesn't have reflective surfaces. There's nothing wrong with recording outside. You don't have any problems with reflective surfaces. Your sound's going to sound pretty good. And unless you have a lot of traffic in your neighborhood and there's sirens going by, what's going to hurt to have a few chirping birds and a little wind in the leaves in your recording? So here's a lesson in good miking technique. You need to get closer to the mic for good sound. Here's a little diagram here that illustrates that between 1 and 2 feet is the ideal distance for recording your voice. And every foot after that, there's a decrease in the sound by 6 dB. So by the time you get to 4, 6, 8 feet out, you can see the drop off in sound. So that's why mic placement is so critical. If you're using a lab mic, clipping it on your lapel is a good place to have it. If it's too close to your mouth, it's not going to be good. As well, if it's too far down, further away from your mouth, it's not good either. If we're speaking into a microphone, we want to make sure that you're not speaking right at the diaphragm. You're going to end up with pee-pops and wind noise on the mic. You need to talk either under the mic or over the mic so that you can avoid those type of things. If you're using your laptop, make sure you're close enough to it so that the microphone can pick you up and you're not going to pick up too much extraneous noise. And I'm going to say a few brief things about video, even though I'm a sound person. You really need to pick a good background. I don't know about you, but watching content of people who are sitting at their messy desk with papers everywhere isn't as pleasing as finding a nice background. And there's no substitute for good lighting. Turn on the lights. Sit somewhere where you have good lighting because just like with sound, where you have a degradation of sound when you're further away, with video, if you don't have enough light, it's not going to look very good. So turn on the lights or even use some kind of a light and bounce it off the ceiling so that you have a nice wash of light. You might have considered improving your camera, something that you can plug into a USB input, something that you can get closer to you, you can improve the angle, and that's going to help your video look better as well. Well, thanks for joining me for this short tutorial on good sound for streaming, and I hope that you'll take the time in your next project to make sure that you pay as much attention to the sound as you do to the video. Good luck on your project.